I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order for the Village of Holly. Please, roll call.
Pledge.
And pledge too. You got me all messed up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, Ms. Bigger, if we could have the roll call.
Delaney.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Musgrave.
Here.
Weinbrenner.
Here.
Kinnaman.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
McKinney.
Okay, Mr. McKinney and Mr. Gildner will not be joining us tonight. I'll entertain a motion for excusing them.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Okay, they both are excused. Moving on to consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Village Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately immediately after consent agenda approval in its normal sequence on the regular agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Mr. Delaney, supported by Mr. Kinnaman. Any further discussion? All in favor, roll call vote?
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. For items on the agenda, comments may be made after council discussion prior to council vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Do we have any public comment?
You'll forgive my ignorance. Rodney Ponock, 707 Cloud Street. This is in reference to the last village vote on dispensaries. But it would be what I would consider a public comment in reference to that vote.
Okay.
May I?
Yes, certainly.
Members of the council, my name is Rodney Ponock. The last time I stood before you was as a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the American Legion Post in regards to our community's episode planning endeavors. A different hat then. Today I stand before you as a member of the community with questions and as one of the licensees that was not selected for a cannabis dispensary here in our community, Tranquility Fields. When I was initially approached by Tranquility Fields, I was another member of the veteran community that silhouetted me for the opportunity. My point is this wasn't something that I sought out. This was an opportunity that found me and I tried to take full advantage of it. It's my involvement in our community that thrust me into this, and I can only imagine what you all went through, given that the floodgates were open to 2 dispensaries in our community. We all know there's money in cannabis, but where does it go? As a 10% owner of the local dispensary with an option to purchase the franchise, I saw the money too, and I'd be lying if I said otherwise. I was in the process of securing funding in order to purchase the franchise. I'd certainly been making plans, but as anyone that knows me out there knows that it wasn't to purchase, say, a fancy sports car. I'm actually in this for the community. What I saw with this was a company that was willing to offer a 10% stake in their operation to the community. They wanted someone in the community to be a part of all of this. The CEO of Tranquility Fields actually lobbied for our local laws in Michigan to change so that individuals like you and I can be involved in the cannabis industry without substantial capital investments. It's a win-win, if you will. Now, when this bus hit me, when I got up, I didn't see stars, I saw opportunity. I know, I need to know what you all saw when you came to your decision during the last council meeting. To my understanding, there was a rubric that was established to create a numerical value for each candidate for licensing. The rubric, I would assume, was created to establish impartiality and select the best candidate for the community based on the very parameters provided to them by the community. In my travels, I've seen 31 countries spanning 4 continents, and I've collected a few trinkets along the way. I brought one of them with me today. I've left it seated over there. I grabbed it in the placa in Athens at the base of the Acropolis. It's an alabaster bust of Aristotle. And in his works he penned, "All men by nature desire to know. So do I." Respectfully, may we see the scores of the rubric. Given the fact that one of the candidates chosen is just shuttering 4 dispensaries in other communities here in Michigan today, I have growing concerns. I saw opportunity for our community here, and I'm trying to understand how you did not, given the manner in which some of the council members voted during the last council meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Go ahead.
Good evening, council members, and thank you very much for your time tonight. I have a few items of concern.
Name and address,
Please
Joanne.
state your name and
Sorry,
address.
that's right.
Thank you.
Sorry, should know that by now. Joanna Barnes, 3393 Harrington Drive. I have a few items of concern. The first actually was what Mr. Pollack has already addressed. I am confused as to why a local resident would not be chosen in this scenario, and I too would be interested to see what motivated the council's decision into the route that they went to choose some corporate interests over local interests. Because in this scenario, just from the information we have, it doesn't feel like it's a lot of local community that was considered, but more of a corporate goal and what money could be driven to the area. So that's my first thing, is that I agree with Mr. Pollack. My second concern is garbage. We all know this. Nobody's surprised that I'm up here talking about this, right? It's something that I've spoken on often. I obviously have a passion about it. Our town is growing. And I want to make sure that we get ahead of the problem that we have with litter before it becomes something that is unmanageable. Right now, it's relatively small. I have met with members of council on the Environment Committee and done my own research into what options for a community of our size, what other municipalities have done, what works. And I would ask the council to please take this issue and have it taken up by the Environment Committee for them to be able to explore options that are a viable, actual, sustainable solution for our community that is going to take us into the future. Because we know that Holly Township is expanding. That's going to increase the traffic. We've got the dispensaries coming in on the north end. That's where a lot of this litter is. That's some of the areas that we really need to start talking about focusing besides just the downtown. Lastly is that development. I don't know if there's a lot of people that are aware of it, but the Holly Township is planning some housing developments, and one of them is on Fish Lake and Quick Road, which is right by C.J. Lamont's. It's close to my home, and it was originally slotted to be 93 acres, have 395 homes or rental units on it. As a resident of Mill Point, with all the baggage that comes with that, I was naturally concerned, so I chose to go to the planning meeting to find out more. And I was really quite shocked to learn that not only is this development looking like it's going to go forward, they're using the same builder. It's Silverman, the same guy who defaulted the first time and still owes taxes to the township and left this community struggling. So the township gets to make decisions that will affect village residents and our community, and we don't have a say in it until it's a done deal. I understand that they've reduced the amount of amount of units that will be there, but there are so many concerns, I can't even begin to express them all. The one thing that I can say is this may not be the same band playing this song, but it's a cover band playing the same melody. And it will go down in history if this same kind of repercussions happen to village residents, because something was missed, especially when we're using somebody who already has shown that maybe they can't be trusted in good faith. There are tons of builders out there, people clamoring to get into places like this. Why would we use somebody who's already screwed us over? What's that saying? Shame on, screw me once, shame on you, screw me twice, shame on me, right? I mean, I think that's where we are now. So I just wanted to make sure, I know that the council can't really do much about this in what the township is doing, but maybe you can start going to meetings and finding out what's going on so that you can be educated about what's going to happen to us residents, because we're the ones who are going to foot the bill in the end, right? Because in 2002, that deal looked great. By the time I moved here, it didn't. Thank you so much for your time. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Madam Pro Tem, can I respond to her second item?
Sure, sure.
Ms. Barnes and I have met a couple of times to discuss this, and we've been trying to put together a plan, and we're going to continue to work together going forward that we can address this problem. And I'm
That is
glad
my
you
hope.
reached out to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Delaney, for your
Thank
time on
you.
that as well.
Absolutely.
Any further public comment?
Hi, thanks, President Pro Tem and council members. Good evening. I'm Jim Koskela. I reside at 207 North Saginaw Street. Couple items on my little list here I just wrote out. There was a cleanup at the Waterworks Park. There were a few of us that got poison ivy. I think Chris Rankin got it the worst, judging by some of the pictures I've seen.
Ouch.
Just up and down. So if you see him, you might want to maybe not pat him on the back, but thank him for being out there because he got it last year, is my understanding too. And there was a lot of progress done. I think they were out there, I was out there 3 hours, the other folks were out there 4 hours. And it might not look like a lot was done, but there's a lot of brush that was cleaned out. And one of the things that was brought up there, I'm not speaking for anybody, but one of the items that was brought up was potentially hiring out to have someone come in there and just not bulldoze it, but along the waterway get rid of all the brush. And if that would be something that could be in the budget, that would be amazing to clean it all out in one time and just not have to worry about lugging poison ivy back and forth to dumpsters. Regarding the cannabis vote last week, I was a little disappointed there wasn't consistency with the way public comment was handled. Normally, even last time, the president had said if you're making a comment on an agenda item, hold it until that agenda item. Well, someone's got up and started speaking during public comment. I'm like, well, he's going to be cut off shortly. He's going to be cut off shortly. He was not cut off. And then the agenda item comes around, and I raise my hand. I know I locked eyes with some members, and there was just no public comment. So that was kind of disheartening. Another item was I tried finding the council packet for this evening, and it wasn't there. So I think the clerk probably normally handles that, and if she's out or whatever. So if it would be a fail-safe.
Yes.
You look totally different.
She got a haircut.
Yeah, it looks that's what it must be.
It
and,
is.
So just the council packet, if we could have that, and I was trying to figure out what we were going to be talking about tonight. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else for public comment? Kristen?
Good evening. Kristen Watt, 102 South First Street, Apartment 3. I actually wasn't going to give a public comment tonight, but you always inspire me with something that you say. It was like the Andes thing that one time. I wanted to just clarify or maybe just bring it to your attention in regard to something that you mentioned. When we did the Holly Women's Memorial last summer, it is not a joke that brush along the Shiawassee River is intense, and that was probably 30 man-hours with 10 volunteers with chainsaw, taking all that down so you could see the tree line, to the river. And at that time, Parks Commissioner Chris Summers, who was not a commissioner at the time, was a big part of that effort. We knew that this spring and summer that it would have to either be redone or readdressed. Emily, and I cannot think of her last name right now, but she is the board chair for Blue Heron Land Conservancy. They changed names from the Headwaters Trails. Anyway, she had mentioned, and I believe Chris mentioned, because at the time he was working for them, that you have to be someone who is licensed to do so, but possibly a more economical solution to the constant clearing of the poison ivy, dogwood, whatever else was down there that's invasive and not positive for that environment. Is there are people who work for the Land Conservancy who can come out who are licensed to, once that brush is removed, I think you have to apply it within like 5 minutes or something. There is a certain chemical that the Land Conservancy uses that is not going to damage other environmental aspects, but it will immediately keep it from regrowth because it will start to regrow literally within 15 minutes of taking it down. So this might be something that's a more cost-effective way of getting rid of the bad invasives, and then they are very prevalent in knowing what good invasives to plant that work with that ecosystem. So as opposed to having to hire people to maintain it, we might be able to just deal with it right there. And if y'all want to look at that in the environmental committee, I just wanted to address that so you knew too. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Lockmiller, 595 South Gillespie Street. I know there's been a couple of comments about dispensaries opening up. I work for Loon Cannabis Co. And let me tell you what, it is a very inviting company to be a part of. I know this gentleman said we closed down, closed the shutters for 4 stores. Unfortunately, you know, we had to make some realignments, and 3 of those locations, you know, we just made a bad call. One of them in Southfield, we're still going to leave open, and once it becomes recreational, then we're going to go back in. We're currently opening up 3 stores: Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and Portage. So we're doing really well, and we're gonna make sure that we continue to do that here in Holly. I just want to put everyone at ease. We are very community involved, right? We work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce, so we will do cleanups, right? We'll make sure that our guys do that, and we'll do food drives, and we'll make sure that we get involved with the community, to say the least. Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I see none. Moving on, we have a presentation with Tim Colbeck from Oakland County. I should say, and company.
Well, you guys have probably seen these before. This is one of my more pleasurable things that I get to do in my role at the county. We've partnered with Genesis Credit Union, and this is Teresa Doan from the credit union, for a few years now, and we give out grants, the Genesis Credit Union grant for small businesses, small startup businesses, and we're here today to acknowledge one of the winners on this year's rounds the first round that we did, which is Battle Alley Brewing Company. So we're really happy to be able to award this. This is going to be a great use. We're happy you're here, taking up space that was vacated, and just good all around. So I don't know if you have any words, or Teresa, do you have any?
Yeah, I just have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about like how this program actually works. So we work with all of the DDAs and all of the main streets in Oakland County, and like Tim said, any business that is a new startup or a business that's really kind of reinventing themselves can apply for this. So we have a lot of different applications that come in. And like I was telling Dave before the start of this meeting, the winners for this round were just clear. Like the proposal that he submitted, I think he actually got some good coaching from Nick, which was fantastic. We were able to see photos of what he's already done and what he had planned. And we try to select businesses that this isn't just something to get by, but this is a business that we actually see thriving and we see really helping the community. So very happy to present that to you.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
worse than Genesis
Thank you very much. And congratulations.
Can I just express our gratitude? You know, it's a big deal for little guys like us trying to get going, and that startup capital is so important for us. I really appreciate the county, Genesis, Nick did a wonderful job helping us secure this, and it's a big deal for us, and I guess I'd say it, especially in light of what some of our friends are going through in Battle Alley proper right now. We want to recognize that, and again, just express our gratitude. We appreciate everything.
Thank you, and welcome to the neighborhood. Okay, moving on, no old business, new business. Number 1, consideration of the approval of council action request to appeal or uphold the decision of the Planning Commission for the rezoning of 15105 North Holly Road. Mr. Walker?
Yes, thank you. So on May the 25th, 2022, the Planning Commission at their regular meeting heard an application by Mr. Todd Pronger regarding rezoning of a parcel of land located at 15105 North Holly Road. So the current zoning on the property is commercial. The request was to rezone it to R1A. And so the Prongers are here with us tonight, along with their counsel, Mr. Lieb. Jeremy Watson also is in attendance at this meeting, as he is the village liaison to the Planning Commission. And so certainly it's your preference, but maybe the most expedient way to handle this would maybe be to have Mr. Lieb or the Prongers present their request and why they think that it should be granted and not the decision of the Planning Commission to deny it.
Okay, council?
Works for me.
Okay.
Mr. Delaney? Okay,
Presentations are always good.
yes. Okay,
Greetings. My name is Jeff Lieb. I'm an attorney in Oakland County, longtime attorney in Oakland County. And I'm here representing Todd and Angel Pronger, who are standing behind me. And this matter originated earlier this year with an application to the Village Planning Commission to rezone the property from commercial to residential. They thought, they were told it was commercial, and so they sought to have it rezoned. Clients purchased the property in December of 2019. At the time of the purchase, the property was owned, they thought the property was owned residential. Clients went to align their objectives with the village's objectives of preserving the village's historic heritage, that of being a welcoming, walkable community for residents and visitors. They've restored this 1940s home in a magnificent fashion. I was just there. It brought out all the former beauty by cleaning up a longtime eyesore. They made the home energy efficient and modern. They made it an attraction and an attractive place to stay in Holly. Their objective is to operate the facility for short-term rentals for people traveling to the area. It's got a great proximity. Proximity is across the street from the Grand Bell, close to other desirable wedding facilities. It's close to a new assisted living facility. It's on a large, quiet, beautifully landscaped property, almost an acre, just a couple of hundred feet short of an acre. It's easily in walking distance and biking distance from downtown Holly and all of the historic locations in your village. Since they've been doing this, they got all these positive reviews, 33 of them. I don't know if they've been given to the village yet, but I'm going to pass this on to Mr. Powers. He can look at them. Every review that they've received has been positive, and everybody's enjoyed staying there. In fact, the prospective use is an allowable accessory use in residential. And I've also had them prepare a petition that they circulated in the neighborhood, and I gave a copy to Ms. Berger for the village, for your council. But in the meantime, I'm gonna give you a copy, my copy, so you can look at it. These are all their immediate neighbors that are in support of it remaining as residential. They were informed by the village that their use required a rezoning from commercial to residential. They appeared before the Planning Commission, as Chairperson indicated, on May 25th. And despite the fact that the single-family residential home already exists, the Planning Commission denied the request because it wasn't consistent with a master plan or the future land use plan. And the future land use plan shows that it remains zoned commercial. Again, this is not vacant acreage. This is an existing single-family home that's been there since 1940. It's non-conforming, it's grandfathered in, but assuming for the moment that the property is or was rezoned to commercial, the residential use would still be an existing non-conforming use. The non-conformity aside, the village's master plan and zoning from 2007 shows residential. The village draft master plan of 2021, after their purchase by the Prongers, also designates the existing land use as zoning as residential. The clients have been informed that the property was rezoned from R1A to commercial and by Ms. Bigger, but the clients were never notified of any attempt by the village to rezone their property. Thus far, the village has been unable to produce any approved minutes or village council resolutions or agendas showing that there was a rezoning from residential to commercial. I had my clients issue a FOIA request for zoning commission meeting minutes for a zoning change from residential to commercial, a notice of public hearing for zoning change from residential to commercial, the commission vote, a vote record from residential to commercial, council minutes showing residential to commercial, the zoning change in zoning, and the village council voting record. The clerk at first indicated she thought the zoning was changed in 2017 per the owner's request. Now, I received a copy of an email today that she said it was zoned commercial since 1987. Doesn't all add up, and nothing has been produced. No records of a rezoning request or zoning action by the city or by the village council as shown. If there's no documents that the effect exists, then regardless of the master plan or the future land use plan, property is still zoned residential. Just because something has a future land use or a master plan doesn't in and of itself rezone the property. I served 18 years on the planning commission and ZBA. Just having a master plan doesn't change the zone. You have to take action to rezone some property. And my position is it's still residential, and even if in some way there's records showing that it's commercial, it's existing. There's an existing home on there that's entitled to be grandfathered in for the use, and all the uses allowed under residential. Basically, that's our presentation. So I hope that in a way we're appealing the decision of the Planning Commission denying the zoning change, but I think that it should just be dismissed and they should be allowed to continue their residential use as they have for the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer any questions, and so will they.
You guys are using this Airbnb, aren't you?
Yes, yes,
And you've been doing so for a couple of years.
yes.
Remember you and I met last year.
So, yeah. And
Why?
we have people that, they come to the community for weddings. There's people that used to live in Holly, they come here to visit family, and they want a place that's in Holly. They don't want to go to the hotels. It's homey, it's a nice place to go to the restaurants. We've had girls' night outs or girls' weekends where they'll come here just specifically to go shopping downtown and eat at the restaurants. If you go to my site, my Airbnb site, I list all of the local businesses and the places to shop and to eat. We encourage people to stay in the community and take advantage of the things that are in town. That's one of the reasons that we transformed the house. If anybody remembers what it looked like for the last probably 7 or 8 years, it was a dump. So, knocked down chain link fence, there was trash in the yard, there was things that were dumped on the property from someone that lived there that worked for the village, we found out. So trees and some old trash in the back that we had to take care of. So we've made it look really nice. It's just on the edge of the village, but it's still part of the village. And we're really proud of the work we did. We did 85% of that work ourselves. And you can find that through our Facebook page. You see us covered in dirt and all of the things it took to transform it back into a beautiful home. And it is a beautiful, historic home. It's 80 years old. So when we purchased the home, it was practically being sold for the land. The house was probably going to be torn down. And it just didn't make any sense for something that's beautiful to be trashed just for the land. So.
Thank you.
No, I think the presentation I sent out, sorry, I'm Todd Pryor, by the way, the presentation sent out, I think it explains pretty well what we're trying to do. We want to take something and make it better. And the idea was awesome. We love Holly. We love Bell Alley Brewing, but we were Northern Oak people before that anyway, but we really like the Holly community. And what we found is that people like staying there. We're very close to the, it's funny, we haven't anybody from the Graham Bell until now. This year we're going to have somebody from the Graham Bell stay there. But we get a lot of people and they just really love coming to Holly, and they like the fact they're not staying in Grand Blanc, they're not staying in Fenton. And some of the folks, they like to stay where there's a little bit more quiet where we're at, and that's been very beneficial, I guess, about that stuff. But I think that's a lot of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just add that I was born in 1941, after this house was built. But I grew up on a farm on McGinnis Road, which is an extension of Grange Hall. My family, we had 9 homes. It's all part of the Holly Recreation Area. So I used to come to Holly when I was a little boy shopping. And so I love this town, and just happy to be able to represent the Prongers on this and let them maintain what they have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
No, wrong council. Wrong council. Thank you. I would too.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Jeremy.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
So in your packet, we provided documentation that was provided by Roe. Roe is our third-party consultant for all planning and zoning related items that come up. This Airbnb was operating for about 2 to 3 years. It was brought to me by a member of the community that it was operating. I sent a letter and violation notice to Mr. Pronger to let him know that what he was doing required a special land use. He immediately responded back, filled out the proper paperwork, and then after further, once he submitted the paperwork for the special land use, Roe Engineering advised us that it was zoned commercial and would have to go through a rezoning process first. So on May 25th, they went in front of the Planning Commission with that rezoning request and were denied. I thought that they would be going in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals for this, but evidently with a special land use or a rezoning, it goes in front of council. So I am here today to answer any further questions you may have. I'm not partial to the operation. However, I am just enforcing the rules and regulations that this community has put in place.
Wouldn't an Airbnb be considered a commercial entity?
According to our ordinance, it's only allowed in the CBD district, the Central Business District, which is commonly known as our downtown historic district. And that's what the Planning Commission and R1B, what the Planning Commission has decided would be the proper zoning for those uses.
So the ordinance also claims that you can't change it from residential to, from commercial back to residential?
No, that's not correct. So all our records, from what I'm being told, is from 1940 with the county. They show this property as commercial. It just flows with the natural contours of North Holly. I know there is 2 residential homes on 2 commercial parcels. The one directly to the north of that is currently for sale now, that you'll see, and they are listing it as a commercial parcel. I think the biggest thing that we need to take away is that spot zoning, right? When you have a community as small as ours, when you spot zone, you change the dynamics, the flow of what the Planning Commission puts in place to try to let the community flow through the avenues of zoning. So that would be our biggest concern. I believe with the Planning Commission was that it didn't match the 7 criteria that are required. And when those 7 criteria, you have to meet all 7. If you hit 6 of them and not the 1, it's unfortunately not approved because of that. So I think that's why the Planning Commission, the first question on that checklist, I believe I provided that to you, is does it align with our master plan? And the first question is an automatic no. So the rest of the 6 questions are now defaulted by just the no on the top one. I also provided maps that were put together by Rowe Engineering that show that property from 2007 to the newest, most updated map being commercial.
Can a special land use permit be granted while remaining commercial? I'm not on planning, so, you know.
From what I understand, no.
No.
You can't, the ordinance is written, and so the only way to do that is to go back and modify the ordinance itself in order to allow them to exist in commercial properties. When we wrote this about 3 to 4 years ago, we spent a considerable amount of time discussing what different zones were to be allowed, and we initially even said no to what we consider the downtown district, the CBD district, because we really didn't want it in any form of commercial locations. Some communities have had struggles where, like, strip malls and things were turned into apartments in order to do Airbnbs in them, and we wanted that clear differentiation that residential worked, and when we modified that to include the CBD district, it was for second floor occupancy only, so that it was in what would be considered residential anyways. Our CBD district is almost what you would call a mixed use because it has the apartments on the upper floors. So to modify that, we have to go back and actually change the whole ordinance. We can't just say, well, we'll let this one happen within a commercial property. Then the purpose for the ordinance is gone.
I actually see something positive for the community, and we're putting up I hate to say it, but a roadblock. I see this as being very positive for the community.
I agree.
And
I agree. Yeah.
I understand the rules have to be followed, but I also understand that we shouldn't let the rules dictate to us what's going to be positive for the community.
Agree. That's why I was looking for a way around.
Right.
I have
And-
a question, Jeremy.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll let you ask your question and
Okay.
maybe it'll get answered. You never know.
When this property, was there anything to show when this property was purchased? I mean, obviously, they would know whether it was commercial or residential, correct?
Well, not necessarily. I believe that comes from the title company and the real estate. So real estate doesn't always disclose, I guess, what they,
Michigan's a full disclosure state.
whether or not it would be residential or commercial. I'm not a real estate agent. I don't know how all that works. But if they would have just contacted the Village of Holly, I would assume that they would have been told that that was a commercial parcel.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Now I almost forget what I was going to say.
See, I told you should have gone first.
Yeah. I think your question is the reason why they are here even, is that the option is to rezone the property from commercial to residential, allows for residential uses to take place. Now, what Mr. Watson has brought up is that becomes spot zoning. And once you begin spot zoning, it's great, and I agree. This is a wonderful, the things you've done to the home, and I'm your business support person in the community, which places this kind of position in a struggle as to, do we follow what we have set up as a community, even when it's a great opportunity? And I think that's where a real struggle lies. And once you do start spot zoning, then anybody can spot zone. The whole thing is up for grabs.
But they can do that based on our approval. They can't just all of a sudden say, I'm spot zoning. It has to come before us at that time.
Right.
And it's my feeling that we should take it each case at a time, as opposed to just giving a blanket and say, absolutely not. And I would hate to see a very good idea not happen because we stood in the way of it.
I mean, anybody who comes to our community and takes a property like this one and substantially invests in it and has made a concerted effort to improve that property, my natural inclination is just to give them a little bit of leeway, right?
You're also setting precedent when you do that, though.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword. I mean, we always welcome business.
If we do that, then somebody else comes in here, and they're gonna want that.
Exactly.
Yep,
I
and if
mean,
we
I-
deny
I-
the next one, then
I understand
litigation,
where they stand.
because we are selective, becomes our struggle.
I have a question, though.
I've got a comment. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Write
Go
yours
ahead.
down, because
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, is there a different way to structure the business that it would conform to a commercial use? I know that Airbnb is just a heading, but it's being utilized in that fashion now. Yeah, I don't know. It bothers me.
I think what it
Right.
boils down to is the difference in taxes, too.
And-
'Cause you've got
right.
commercial versus residential taxes.
do you know which tax rate you're being charged?
Yeah, I do. Maybe we can shed a little light on that. We had conversation, when I say we, I mean her, with Oakland County Assessing. So Mr. Levy is correct. So this is an existing non-conforming use. So it's a residential use on a commercial piece of property. And so it's permissible to continue with this non-conforming existing use as long as it continues on. But it doesn't have all the rights of everything that's granted in an R1B district. And so this special land use for Airbnb is something that's available to a regularly zoned residential piece of property, but not necessarily for this in its current zoning, because it is zoned commercial, it has a residential use. Because it has a residential use, Oakland County, who we contract with for assessing, and so they work with us on how they set their parameters. But because it's used as a residential use, they tax it or classify it as a residential property for tax purposes. And so Mr. Pronger is absolutely correct. Zoned residential, if it, or tax residential, zoned commercial, if it sells and reverts to a commercial use, then that tax classification will then revert also. So just for a little clarification also, as long as I have the mic, I love this.
Oh, Lord.
So the property has never been zoned residential. The property has always been commercial.
Since 1940.
Oakland County
Since
records.
1940, right?
Yeah, Oakland County records show that as far back as 1940, it was zoned commercial, and that has been the process all the way through. Now, in 2017, there was a purchaser who came on the scene, bought the property. She misunderstood what the zoning was, probably because of what the use was. When she bought it, it was previously a residential property, and requested a zoning change to commercial, which would have been in line with future master plan use. However, at that time, staff told her that this property is already zoned commercial. There is no need to proceed. And so that's that 2017 date that Mr. Lee brought forward. So there was an attempt to rezone it at that time. It was never processed because it was already zoned commercial, which was what the requested use would have been. So that's all I have.
So they're in a scenario of being as clear as mud.
Well, they're in a
essence.
scenario of they have a residential use in a commercial zoning.
Yeah.
In order to complete the use that they want to have, so that they can do the Airbnb, they need a rezoning, basically.
And
Conundrum.
my question is, why did you not try to go to ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals?
They can't.
Sure.
Yeah.
If it was shut down? I mean, if the planning commission denied it.
No, because it's a zoning request.
Mm-hmm.
CBA doesn't handle that kind of
CBA
request.
doesn't handle that.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to answer, we were asked to come to council at the meeting. What we did when we bought that property, we were thinking of various uses. And when we looked at it, and again, you can clearly look, if you want to look at the master plan, it shows residential. And it shows there, and both the new one and the old one, that it's a residential lot. So that was our take on it. It was, okay, it's kind of non-conforming, we bought it as non-conforming, and we said, okay, there's different things we can do with it. It's already a house, my wife's already mentioned, it's a beautiful house. And it's a very nice piece of history. Oh, sorry?
It is now.
It is not, you know, so, but I mean, the exterior is beautiful. But anyways, so that is what we set about to do. And again, I've weaved this, as exactly what Mr. Walker's talking about, we weaved this thing. We've gone, okay, so the way the ordinances are set up, you kind of run into a dead end because, oh, you're in a commercial area. You can't go any further now. Well, okay, so then the only way to do it is go to residential. When you go residential, we're told, well, now you're doing, you know, pocket or exception zoning. So this is where the catch-22, and this is the reason we're kind of in front of you now, is, you know, we've tried to do the right things. We originally listed it as a rental property. We went through the formal steps for that. We weren't trying to skirt any issues like that. And we tried to do it the right way, and then we've kind of gone this course now to try and make it the right way. And again, I think conundrum is a good word right now, in terms of the way things are set. So,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Spot zoning typically refers to vacant property that they want to change the zoning from everything around it and change and make it a zone all of itself. This is an existing home. It's always been used as residential since 1940 when it was built. So it's not, the term spot zoning is really inappropriate under these circumstances because it's existing.
I have to agree.
Thank you.
The fact that the house has been there since 1940. It's always been used as a rental.
Debbie, what can we do at this time to ensure their success of being able to put this in here, the way they have it zoned the way it should be zoned in the first place?
That's going to have to be a motion by council. Correct, Mr. Walker?
Correct.
I'll make a motion that we approve how would you word it?
Approve the request.
Rezoning of this particular
From
parcel.
commercial to residential.
Commercial to residential.
And I second that.
I got a question.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Walker, if we rezone this, would it still be like spotting?
Well, I mean, so it will fit into that definition of spot zoning, but really, as Mr. Lieb described, it is a little different than the
Okay.
typical of, I'm going to rezone 10 acres in the middle of a 30-acre
Okay.
contiguous parcel, right?
Agreed.
So, I mean, it definitely, it fits in the definition of spot zoning, but, I mean, it's within council's purview to do this.
Okay. Any further discussion, council?
No. No.
Any discussion by the public? Jim?
You first, Jim, we don't want to miss you.
She'll correct me, yeah. Jim Cospela, 207 North Saginaw. President Tom, that's exactly what I was going to bring up, is the precedent. It would be an issue, someone coming in and using this as an example. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are requirements in the zoning that if there are two adjacent properties and they're zoned differently, you have to have barriers up or landscaping a certain way. So if I'm correct on that, would that potentially impact future use? So for instance, someone wants to move into the commercial building next door. Do they now have an extra burden because they are right next to a residential? That would be problematic. And a shout out to Mr. Watson. While we were doing our, this is kind of off topic, but while we were doing our DD and trying to buy the house, he's a wealth of knowledge. So he wouldn't have let us get the house, or we wouldn't have been able to get the house without his knowledge. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kristen?
Kristen Watt, 102 South First Street, Apartment 3, in case I missed it from last time. I just have a question, because I do know what house you're talking about, and I'll be honest with you, I have not recently read the master plan for Holly. It's been a while since I've, scrolled through that, and so I'm just curious. I understand the conundrum they're in. I understand the conundrum you're in, and being, especially with the Planning Commission already saying no. However, in a completely different situation, it wasn't a year ago that we sat in this very room and rezoned a house for some horses over here. And I know what you're saying, like setting precedents and doing like that, but they are case by case, and the girl had a legitimate thing, and y'all passed it. And so there are ways to do this, and I just feel like there have been numerous folks over the 2 years that I've been attending these meetings that end up purchasing property or doing things here, and it doesn't matter whose fault it is. That's where they're at now. They have a home that they've spent a fortune in, and there are people like we focus every day in this community on trying to bring economic development, business, new people, building things. We want people to come to Holly, and so I don't think this is a situation where, I know there are rules, I know there are ordinances, but that's why we also have committees and councils to change those things to make it make sense for our community. And so I don't know what all the legal mumbo jumbo has to be done to make that happen, but if somebody comes here and spends that kind of money to take a blighted property and turn it into something that's bringing economic development to themselves and to our community, figure it out, make it happen. It's not just doing it special because it's them. It makes sense for everything we preach every single day in the village of Holly, that we want people to come spend money here and stay here. So I think what they're asking for is absolutely reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public? Joanna?
Joanna Barnes, 3393 Harrington Drive. I remembered. I live right across from this house, actually. I live in Mill Point Sub. And not only have I noticed the improvements that have happened with the house, I have not noticed any detriments that have happened in them doing what they're doing with it. One of the only other concerns that I would have is there are other homes that are right by this house, and is this going to be something that is going to be repeated in the future with these other homes that were built clearly in what must be zoned as commercial, if it's all zoned, like that house is there and there's other houses. So that would be my only concern, is that the council would need to just be aware of that there are other homes that are there, that this may come up. But I don't see, again, why it wouldn't make sense to take it on a case-by-case basis and say what makes sense for Holly. And we are all educated people who know about what we need to do for Holly, and so we're going to, as a council, come together and make that best decision. And as long as the public is in support, then I think that it's a benefit all the way around. But, you know, that's just me as a resident. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. What is council's pleasure?
We have a motion and support on the floor.
That's right. Roll call vote, please.
Delaney.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, number 2, consideration of the approval of resolution 2022-024 allowing alcoholic beverages in Lakeside Park on August 13th, 2022, and approving the special event request for the Holly United Benefit Concert.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So this is a request from a group of musicians that normally perform at the Moose Lodge and also at Andy's Place. And the purpose of the benefit concert is to raise funds for those businesses, employees, and tenants that were affected by the fire in the downtown. And so as part of their request, they also wish to be allowed to serve alcohol in conjunction with their event. And so you can see on their request form or resolution that the event date, proposed date, is August the 13th. They would actually have 2 time frames. The first one beginning at 12 o'clock, the second one from 12 to 3, then the second one from 6 to 9. And so it's that 6 to 9 p.m. period in which they wish to be allowed to serve alcohol in conjunction. So all proceeds, after possibly whatever expenses would be incurred, but it's a volunteer group for the most part, would then be forwarded through the village's patronicity or the 501c3 fund that the DDA is administering, and then those funds then would be redistributed back into the community.
So no outside group would be collecting money?
No outside groups should, no, this will be a closed event.
Okay.
If the council approves this
Okay.
on this date and time for this event.
Cost of DPW and reserve officers?
So that's something that the village will participate in as far as in-kind services.
Okay.
Okay. Food and beverage, it's checked off as yes. Is there going to be food there?
There will be food there.
Locally, or is it going to be an outside vendor?
Well, I don't have that specific detail. I'm sure that they'll be bringing it in. Nick? So Nick actually participated in this. You did that.
I did not.
And actually, both the Moose is going to be participating as far as food-wise and with the beer tent. And they're going to be bringing in, they're going to ask the other wait staffs of the places downtown that have been affected as well to help serve and then collect the tips to be able to spread amongst each other. But we're also going to bring in a couple food trucks as well, just because, and local, local food trucks, but just to kind of help with the amount of people that may be there. So.
I'm sure there'll be a lot.
They're expecting a minimum of 200 bikes to start with.
Nice.
And then community people on top of that.
Right.
My question was going to be, who is the liquor license coming through, and to say the Moose helps with that.
I'll make the motion we adopt resolution 2022-024.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Perkins, supported by Mr. Weinbrenner. Any discussion? Council? I'm sorry.
For public comment?
No, not at this
Oh, I'm
point. It
sorry.
was council discussion first, and then that.
No problem.
Council discussion?
No.
No, Nick's involved. I'm on board.
Okay. Guess what?
Now he can.
Now you can come back.
For the record, my name is Daniel Precup. I live at 325 Beaver Run. I've been a resident of Holly for 5 years. As a musician myself, one of the participating musicians, myself and Mr. Gary Valentine, who frequents the open mic at Andy's Place, we came together, came up with the idea, and then it sort of manifested in the motorcycle ride. So I appreciate the public support. One of the things that was also mentioned was the DPW help at the Holly Middle School. So we have a couple bathrooms because we're expecting about 300 to 400 motorcycles to show up, registration, things like that. I have also completed a banner permit application so that we can promote above Saginaw the ride itself and also the event. So it would all be just one, not just promote the ride, but the ride and the concert. And then also a special event package along with the document submitted for the school use of the parking lot to use her. So just want to make sure there wasn't any stone unturned and that everybody has the appropriate things that they need. Also, Mr. Watson from the fire department, along with Chief McGee, mentioned that we could have some support relative to maybe a fire truck leading the ride. We wish to ride by the police station and fire station and just sort of like acknowledge, like, hey, thanks for everything you did to save the town. And then we'll end up back at Lakeside Park. So other than that, I just want to thank everybody's cooperation, Nick and police, fire, everybody's just come together. This thing came together in like 2 weeks, so it's amazing what you can do if you just little determination. So if there's anything else we can do as far as promotion, I'm all for it. I have 99.5 YCD and WRF, the RIF, and also Arsenal Harley Davidson. They're all signed up to come and do whatever they can do and be a presence on site to help promote the event. So more to come on that. I might ask for a little help. I'll reach out to Nick. He's been a tremendous resource. Along with Nicole Rankin and the Veterans Resource Board, Bruce Frymark, everybody. So if there's anything else that's needed in order to approve or to get additional volunteers or support or even money, just let me know. I kind of took on a role of pulling it together, and it's sort of manifested into me leading this thing. So I'm just a guy, I live in Holly, and just want to do something good for the community. So I appreciate everybody's support, and thank you for approving it. I really do.
We appreciate that. One question, who's sponsoring the bike ride?
There is no sponsor right now. It's yours truly. So I'm putting out about $1,500 of my own money to buy some T-shirts, and it's just my way of giving back. So we're looking for sponsors. If anybody wants to step up and fit that bill, that would probably make my wife happy. But no, it's just important to me. That place and that town and that alley brings us a lot of joy. I mean, it's just it's the heartbeat of the community. So we just want to bring it back, but whatever we can do. So I think this ride's going to bring a lot of people into Holly, that might not normally come here, and we're just doing whatever we can to support it, get that thing back, so we can play some music and have a lot of fun. So we want to keep it respectful. Also, the one other thing I wanted to mention was if we can maybe get some support from the fire department to actually bring some trucks to that event, because if it's a family event. Kids calling over fire trucks is kind of a thing that they do in different counties, like a touch a truck event. That'd be really cool if we had some ladder trucks and some stuff, so people want to bring their kids. It's for the police and fire, it's recognition, so I thought maybe we can do something like that, but we can talk about that offline. But that's the only other thing that I wanted to mention. So appreciate everybody. I got your paperwork, sir, so I'll give it to you.
Can I get your contact info after the meeting?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, council?
Time for a vote.
Roll call vote, please.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Definitely, yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. Number 3, special event, vintage baseball game.
Yes, thank you. So Mr. Shalag actually has organized vintage baseball games in the past for different events in the village. He's offered to organize a vintage baseball game at Cyclone Park, and any proceeds that would come from that event would be again donated to the fund to assist the displaced employees, tenants, and businesses. The date of event is August the 6th, 2022. And so since it's such a short time, honestly, Mr. Schlag's already started working on it, and he's already been to the DDA board and the Parks Commission and has their approval pending council authorization, so we would request approval.
I make a motion that we approve the vintage baseball game.
Second.
Second.
I think Ryan got it. Let's see. Rick. Ryan. Any further discussion, council? Any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay. Any public discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Powers.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Weinbrenner.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Reports. Mr. Walker, anything further from
So
your report?
You have my written report in your packet. The only thing I would bring forward, only because there's been some question in the community, is the status of electricity in the downtown as a result of the fire. So to my knowledge, there are only 2 businesses that have not had full power restored, that being Blackthorn, and that is due to equipment that was damaged as a result of power surge from the fire. So Consumers actually has power to the building. It's just their internal equipment. And then Detroit Iron Refinery on South Saginaw. They had their final inspection on Friday, and Mr. Watson contacted Consumers today, and they have them on the short list to expedite getting power back to them. And with that should be all back to normal, the power part. And I'm sure you've seen, if you've been through the downtown, which I know you have, restoration efforts have already began, and I think things are progressing as well as could be expected. That's all.
Thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Walker a question?
No. Yes.
When Belfour has the fencing off back in, across from the Moose, and they're stacking brick.
Yes.
Do they plan on using it?
So I think
Are they doing reclaim?
Yeah, I think they're going to try and use as much as possible back in there. And fortunately, you know, their engineers, along with the village engineer that we called in, they were able to specify that the front wall of Andy's, even that second story in the front, could be saved. Originally, we thought that all had to come down. But with that being said, that will maintain as much historic aspect as we could.
Awesome.
But yeah, there is a plan
Good.
to maintain as much of that brick as possible.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, Ms. Bigger.
No, I have nothing to add to my report.
Okay. Mr. Gildner is absent. Boards and commissions. Rick.
I would like to not talk to everybody, but let everyone know that we are bringing the Vietnam Wall, the replica wall, not the actual wall, but the replica wall, into Holly the first week of August. We're anticipating great numbers here. Some say 20,000 visitors, others have said 30,000, but it will be a big event for the village of Holly. And as I've talked to people, in 10 years, 15 years from now, they'll talk about the Vietnam replica wall coming into Holly. And we're actually looking at getting a little monument put up where the wall was going to be, or is going to be, after the wall leaves. So stay tuned. There'll be a lot of information coming out on it, and it should be a very exciting weekend for the whole village of Holly, and actually the whole state of Michigan, because this wall has not been in very many locations in the state of Michigan the last 7 years. So we're anticipating large numbers because of that, and also large numbers because we're close to Metro Detroit, Saginaw, and that area. So stay tuned. There'll be more information coming out on it.
Thank you. Mr. Kinnaman?
Planning Commission met, and they approved the addition of a parking lot at Mission Point to alleviate some of their on-street parking that has caused some problems in the neighborhood. That's a report part. Questions. One, the trash compactor by Red Devil downtown. I've had several businesses comment to me that There's significant amounts of food stuff underneath it. If there's a way that we can, when they dump that sometime or something, to clean that. It especially was worse because of the fire and a lot of things that needed to be disposed of. Overfilled the compactor, I think, and bringing a request from businesses to kind of look at that if we could. Commenting as well as the Chamber of Commerce, Blues Brews and Barbecue will go on in Broad Street in front of the Moose as originally scheduled. And remember, this is a joint venture between the Chamber and the Moose, so it is one of those opportunities to help the Moose organization as well. Our food selection may change just a little bit because we're not using the Moose's kitchen, but we will have good barbecue outside yet, and so that'll still be a great event. Talking about the bricks downtown, it's been noted that there are some people who have gone inside of the fences and taken some of those bricks. And speaking on behalf of businesses who have lost their locations down there, they are saving those bricks. So anyone who goes in and takes them is actually stealing. Please leave the items that are inside of that fence where they are, so that the businesses who are trying to rebuild can do so in the best fashion they can. There are items that are being found, from the arcade. Those items belong to somebody, so we need to, be turning those in, not going through the rubble. So support those businesses and yet that way too. Thank you.
I agree, thank you. Mr. Delaney.
The Zoning Board of Appeals met last night. There were just two items on the agenda. One was a request for an accessory building in the front yard. That was granted. That was a homeowner on Academy Road. And then at 714 North Saginaw Street, there was a request for a variance to place a fence, a chain link fence, around the property. And that variance was granted as well in the interest of the business owner's security. And that is, I suppose, there is one thing I would like to re-raise from the public comment section, and that is Ms. Barnes' request that we explore our options as far as what we can do about the trash, the litter in town, and I think that would be a very appropriate thing for the Environment Committee to explore and to discuss and potentially to, bring a solution to the whole council for. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Weinbrenner.
I have nothing tonight.
HDC did not meet, but I would like to ditto what you just said about Ms. Barnes, and I look forward to working with both of you on it.
Okay. Personnel or finance, neither one met, and I do not have any report from Mr. McKinney from DDA. So,
If I may mention one thing, Officer Craig Simpson, Holly PD, is in the ICU with a torn aorta. So, I mean, prayers up.
Definitely. Okay. Well, if there's no other comments or questions, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:40.